Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Rose and Rubini podcast, Making Sense of This World. My name is Manas Chavla, and as always, I'm really pleased to be joined by CEO and Head of Research, Brunello Rosa. This week, we're imagining a world with Trump, Le Pen, and Putin all in power at the same time. To some, a scary thought, but increasingly a likely one. Um, there's a lot of political chaos going on. The British elections today, the French elections, the two stages which we're right in the middle of, and of course the sort of chaotic U.S. presidential debate that we saw happen just last week. Let's start with the debate first, Brunello. I mean, President Biden here, kind of it's no major headlines by now. Staged one of the worst performances that we could have possibly imagined, and the Democrats have been ringing the alarm bells. How bad is the impact really? Could he potentially even be replaced as the Democratic nominee?
So the debate, I think it was under everybody's eyes, so it's not a secret that it went disastrously. Even his closest friends told him, "Look, you performed very poorly." I think he admitted himself, he knew that it wasn't a good performance. He even said, "I risk falling asleep on stage," which I'm not sure is a good argument. It seems like aggravating the situation. So at this point, the polls really show clear advantage for Trump, more because Biden has collapsed rather than Trump has advanced. Um, and so now the question is, can he be replaced? There are lots of questions. This poll says that effectively only Michelle Obama could win against Trump, 50 against 42. But then again, this would be a national poll. Then the election, as we know very well, is won state by state. So the question is, how would Obama be received in the swing states, Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania? This is a totally different story. It takes time to build a profile and so on. So replacing a sitting president is not that easy. First of all, you kind of admit that the character wouldn't work. The second is reneging policies. So it's like a total disaster. But that total disaster stopped brewing in 2020 when he was elected. He said they're going to be only here for one term, which doesn't kind of look like a sound strategy because, um, okay, one term, and then what happens next? You leave it to your vice president, as is the normal succession plan, as that happened so many times. Clinton with Gore, um, Reagan with Bush Senior, and I can carry on. So were you thinking that Kamala Harris would effectively be the presidential nominee in 2024? And if that was the case, is America ready for a woman and then a black woman president? Clearly, the Democrats would be happy for that, but America as a whole, is it ready? The fact that Trump is so strong may suggest otherwise. So, in reality, the situation has been is pretty severe. And the Chicago Convention in the end of August is approaching very fast. So, it's better if the Democrats find a solution sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And then looking sort of across the pond to Europe, EU has had several negotiations on several fronts, but perhaps the most interesting one has been the French election, where Macron shortly calling a snap election right after the results of the European parliamentary elections came out. We've just seen the first round of voting happen. All the exit polls show clearly that Le Pen's party is doing excellently well in the polls. Macron and his Ensemble coalition coming in third. I mean, tell us a bit more about what's going on in France. What's the real risk of a potential Le Pen leadership in these prime ministerial elections, also the future presidential elections, and what does that mean for Europe?
Yeah, so European elections, we have discussed, we have published about that. The nutshell is two messages. First, the majority that govern Europe so far has been confirmed. Yes, they lost quite a few seats, especially the Liberals, but because of what happened to Macron, and we'll see that in a second. But overall, EPP increased, Social Democrats confirmed, maybe lost one or two seats, and the Liberals went down. You do the arithmetics, there are no other majorities without these three main parties. The kind of fairy tale of a few right-wing majority, EPP, Identity Democracy, and ECR, it simply doesn't have the numbers, assuming that politically were to be feasible, and it's not. So there's no alternative on this. And actually, it's quite disturbing to see so many people say, Macron has lost and Meloni has done well, so clearly things should go in the other direction. It doesn't work like this. The elections have said that the three major parties that have governed Europe still have a comfortable majority in parliament. So these are the three parties that should govern. And that's why they proposed the speed, the speed one could say, the new kind of jobs, which see a second round effectively for a second term for Ursula von der Leyen as president of the Commission, and then a new president of the Council, the socialist Antonio Costa, who did very well in Portugal, and then Callas as the high representative for foreign affairs. So, you know, the typical tripartite coalition with the division of jobs, plus Metsola remains as president of parliament. Nothing new. So that's the first message. The second message is, everybody has heard that right-wing parties have increased. Definitely at national level, this was felt even more so that at European level. Yes, ID increases number of seats, ECR increases number of seats, not dramatically. We are not talking about a huge number at European level, but at national level, that was felt. Hence, the French elections, because Macron realized that he lost very badly. His entire coalition took less than 50% of votes when the Rassemblement National alone took 31% of votes, so more than double. I mean, people say, hey, last time they did the same and you didn't resign, and actually you won again in 2022. So why such an improper decision of dissolve parliament? There are hundreds of potential arguments. I can discuss them, but honestly, it would be a bit of a waste of time. Now is where we are. First round of election has happened. Rassemblement National has done extremely well. But now there's a second round, and this is where things will really be decided, because there's sort of resistance, this is how it's called, or sort of mutual assistance, if you want, between Macron and the left bloc, just to prevent the Rassemblement National from obtaining a majority in parliament. Then, assuming that happens, you might have a hung parliament, and then trying to form a government would be extremely complicated. But in any case, this is really the game to watch these days.
Yeah. And then that, you know, comes at a time when you already have sort of autocratic tendencies in other parts of the world. You know, two right-wing populist leaders at the helm of the two oldest liberal democracies. I mean, tell me more about the sort of background context of some of these politicians gaining fervor in the right-wing populist sense. What really could we see, as you say in the sort of headline, if we had a world with Trump, Le Pen, Putin in power all at the same time?
Yeah, that's kind of this scary scenario that we are depicting, but for somebody, in reality, is a dream scenario. That's the picture that we have posted. The populist leaders strongly depend on the context they're facing. Take Giorgia Meloni. She's definitely right wing, moderately populist when she was in opposition, in a sense, providing this idea, yeah, I will abolish the taxes on fuel, all that kind of stuff. That's typical populist approach, right? Throwing there a sort of recipe without saying how it will happen and so on and so forth. Guess what? She's been in power almost 2 years, and taxes on fuel, of course, are still there. Now, but then people say, well, she's in any case very well behaved. She's mainstream. She's pro-Atlantic, pro-European. She hasn't got to a serious confrontation against the EU and so on and so forth. But that's because Meloni is constrained. She's constrained by Biden in the US. She's constrained by the European Commission. She's constrained by the ECB, Banca d'Italia, Ragioneria Generale dello Stato, which is like the chief accountant in the country. So, is a leader that cannot do almost anything. Okay, hence she's well behaved. But imagine a world in which Trump is in the US, Le Pen is in France, hence the European Commission is half, let's put it that way, delegitimized, so much weaker politically. She would feel much less constrained. And so she might be less mainstream, less probably less pro-European, less pro-Atlantic, and so on and so forth. Le Pen would be, which is the reason why we say that for those who believe that Le Pen could be, the verb is used, is Melonized, so effectively, I am not like Meloni. We don't really think about the fact that, yes, Bardella, which is effectively intense candidate for prime minister role, might be constrained by Macron, by the market for sure, sometimes by the commission, depending. But the sense of independence and sovereignty that the French have is so much bigger than that of the Italians. So if Le Pen were to win the elections in 2027, she would feel entitled to do almost whatever she wants. She may or may not get market discipline, but initially she would feel so much more in power and entitled to do whatever she wants. So this would be a world very, very different. We have already spoken about what we think Trump, the second term for Trump, would mean for the US democracy. Probably the end of what we call liberal democracy would become an electoral democracy, as we have others in the world. And then France, another beacon of democracy in the world, might be in the end of Le Pen. Here in the UK, the situation is slightly different, and is another important country, but now that it's outside the EU, its influence is in fact reduced. So, watch out for a situation in which all these populist leaders were to become be empowered at the same time.
Yeah. I think there's an interesting, fact that you point out there, which is judging these populist leaders on their own individual record is very different from judging them in a situation where they're all in power together, because their relative influence don't just add up, they compound.
Exactly.
And that's these three aren't the only ones. There's many more possibly poised to take power in a number of different countries across Europe and the Western world, which we'll see over the next few years. So a very timely piece, but as always, Brunello, thank you so much for your thoughts and insight.
Thank you very much. Until next time.